It's a normal Thursday in New York City, about 4:15 p.m. People are starting to get ready to leave work, thinking about the weekend, thinking about their plans. People are talking to their friends in the office about what bar they're going to after work or over the weekend or what their plans are. Some people are going to see a concert. Some of the businessmen and finance bros are going out to golf with potential clients. Everyone's excited for the next few days, for the weekend. The office buildings are completely full. People are starting to pack their bags, but nobody's really left yet. Rush hour is building on the streets. You hear horns honking a little bit more often in frequency as time goes on and gets closer to 5, 6 p.m. And the subways are beginning to get packed, from commuters to visitors, everybody just traveling around New York City. And then the lights flicker. And most people are just like, all right, typical light flicker, no big deal. And then they go out completely. At first, everyone assumes it could be construction, or maybe there's a storm, or something typical, normal, something that we could all expect. And as time goes on, those same people start asking more questions. Well, there wasn't supposed to be a storm today. It's nice out, actually. And if there was construction, don't you think we would have gotten notice? And why are the street lights out? Aren't those run on a different grid? Wait, why is this subway down? Why are the trains stopped? You can start to feel the panic grow in the city as a collective. It's a palpable feeling of worry. And with all the electronics shut down, you can hear the chatter of people asking questions. The more level-headed people are telling the people that are maybe more prone to panic to just wait a minute, just give it a few minutes, let the people in charge of the power work it out. I'm sure it's going to be nothing. You're going to be fine. You're going to get to your concert. You're going to get to your weekend plans. Everything's cool. But then it starts spreading. The blackout's not just on one street. It's on the neighboring street. And then an entire borough is blacked out. And then neighborhoods. And before they know it, it's not just their building that has a power outage, but it's the entire state of New York and the entire Northeast. But nobody stuck in the subways knew this. A lot of the people in the subways were minding their own business, reading books, reading the newspaper, thinking about what they were having for dinner that night, and boom, stop. Again, same sort of chatter and panic in those subways, but it's a smaller car, and people start asking questions sooner when something like a subway train stops. Questions are being asked, and when is the subway going to start back up? And the conductor doesn't have any answers for anyone. And that's when things start to get really uncomfortable, because when you're trapped in a tight space with strangers in a dark underground tunnel, there's an expectation that you being in that situation is a very temporary thing. And when the idea of temporary becomes elusive, panic sets in fast. And it did for many people on the subway. The emergency lights coming on only made it worse. The air started to feel dense and used. Announcements were unclear. Nobody had answers. And then the doors manually opened in the middle of the tracks. And so some people immediately jumped out of their train and ran for an exit, thinking that the world was ending. Others were asking whether it was okay if they were allowed to leave the train. And the announcement was given that everybody should exit the train in an orderly fashion. The announcement we all know. But the train wasn't at a station. It was stopped in the middle of the tracks, in the middle of a tunnel. So you have lines of people leaving work, going to their buddy's house, tourists, locals, carrying bags with them and suitcases, walking the paths of the subway in complete darkness. Everyone got to their exits, but there was a strange feeling that not a lot of them could shake, of an expected outcome when they got onto that subway train. They thought that they would get on at point A and finish at point B. But somewhere in the middle, something happened, and that wasn't the outcome that they were expecting. So while everyone was okay, their level of internal panic and maybe external panic rose a bit more than those that weren't underground. But everyone came out and out of the subway system, and to their surprise, they were met with the city absent of any mechanical noise. There was no hum of air conditioning or traffic light rhythm or anything digital. The sound of the city wasn't the same sound that they were accustomed to. They heard sirens, they heard screaming, they heard quiet chatter. A lot of them even heard footsteps for the first time in New York City, especially during rush hour. They knew that from the time that they got off of that subway train and walked through the tunnels and came up, 15, 20, 30 minutes had passed, and the fact that nothing had been fixed, and if anything, things had only gotten worse, became really, really worrisome. Now, this is the story of the 2003 Northeast power outage, which was very different than the 1977 New York City power outage. See, in 1977, there was immediate panic, looting, riots. People immediately saw the system failing and decided it was their moment to step in and take what they wanted, do what they wanted. They were finally free. There was a sense of freedom from oppression, and people were acting out, being rebellious, thinking there was no way they were going to get caught or get in trouble, because for all they knew, the world was ending. But in 2003, it was very different. There was almost a sense of stronger community. Pedestrians were directing traffic. People were giving out extra food from the food stands. Everybody was checking in on each other, making sure everyone was okay. People that lived in some of the neighboring houses were sitting on their stoops, just looking around, trying to get the same news that everybody else had, which is just, we don't know. But there was a communal feeling in 2003 versus the incredibly adversarial and dangerous feeling that occurred in 1977. And the reason we're even talking about these stories is the fragility of our modern world. We run on technology. I'm looking at a camera, you're watching this on a screen. I have lights on. We all run on electricity. And while we haven't had a big blackout like this since then, it kind of begs the question of what happens if we do or when we do. This wasn't the case of cyber terrorism or any criminal mastermind plan. It was one tree in Ohio. One tree in Ohio pressed up against a power line in the wrong way, an alert was missed, and an unupdated piece of software in the power grid caused a blackout for 50 million people. It's that simple. One tree pressing up against the wrong line, one laggy software bug, and 50 million people are without the world that they know for a day, longer in some instances. About 30 hours later, the lights flicker again, the hum of the refrigerators and the AC units pick up, TVs turn on, and everything is back to normal, just like that. The city resumes, people are back in work on Friday, everyone's plans are back on, and everyone moves on pretty quickly. But for that one night, one of the most powerful cities in the world went dark.